Dear students, we are going to learn a new module. This is an important topic, elements of a valid contract. So, what is the meaning of contract? Contract is a legally enforceable promise. So, what we have to think about legally enforceable, that meaning if somebody is not following the promise committed, written, signed, agreed between parties, we can take legal action. So that is the importance. Legally enforceable promises are termed as contracts. Now the second point you have to remember that the sanctity of the contract is very important. The fulfillment of the contract is very important. So this we have to remember. That is why I told you the legal consequences. So this is the meaning of contract. Now what is an importance of contract? An agreement creating an obligation is a contract. So an agreement, we have learned that so far. First it's coming as a proposal, then it's coming as an offer. Then both the parties are negotiating and they're reaching an agreement. So once an agreement is accepted by both the parties, it's creating an obligation on both the parties. Now what is the definition or what is the importance of contract? Professor Salmon, he says that the law of contracts is not the whole law of agreements, nor it is the whole law of obligations. It is the law of those agreements which create obligations and those obligations which have their source in agreements. This is an important statement. We have to remember that, see, all proposals will not become agreements. All agreements will not become contracts. But if you go through this procedure, first is the proposal, then the offer, then the acceptance, both the parties are ready for that, then it will ripen into a contract. Once the contract is made, the legal consequences will be there if you are not following that. That is the words of Professor Salmon. It's again emphasizing the importance of contract and the procedure and the consequences for not following the same. Now, what is the definition of contract? Section 2, subsection H of the Indian Contract Act 1872 defines a contract as an agreement enforceable by law. So here again 2 points are important. First, a contract is an agreement by two or more than two parties. Second is it is enforceable by law. Once you are accepting that, see, if it's a job agreement, I am agreeing. That meaning I have to, what are the terms and conditions? I have agreed. So I have to follow that. So the organization from their side also some commitments will be there regarding salary and all. They will also commit, they will also pay me regularly. If it is not, we can challenge that in the court of law. We will get the justice. Now, what are the elements of contract? Again, we are stressing on 2 points. One is an agreement and one is a duty enforceable by law. So two things are there, agreement. So we have seen that agreement is very important. Both the parties, there are so many procedures before that, but once it will become an agreement, both the parties agree to it. They will make a document, written, registered, signed by both the parties, agreeing all the terms and conditions according to their satisfaction. Then it will become a duty enforceable by law. They are bound to follow that. Now, what are the essentials of a valid contract? So 10 points are there. These points you have to remember because we are going to learn in detail about the Indian Contract Act. So this is the base, 10 important points to make a valid contract. First point is CONSENSUS-AD-IDEM. That is, parties must agree on the subject matter of the contract at the same time and in the same sense. See, for example, if it's to purchase a car, you are approaching an automobile dealer. If it's a Toyota dealer, so you have to remember that different cars are there. Which car you select? What is your mode of payment? When you want the delivery? What are the terms and conditions? Whether it's a bank loan or cash payment, all the terms and conditions, both the parties will sit together and decide. There will be a consensus-AD-IDEM, mutuality of mind, or acceptance by both the parties. Then only that is the important thing in the consideration of a contract, or that is the important element we have to satisfy while forming a contract. Mutuality of minds. Both the parties should agree on the same sense, same subject matter, same time and in the same sense. There should not be any vague meaning or vague terms and conditions which both the parties are not able to understand. Everything should be clear cut. Second is intention to create a legal relation. See, we are not entering or we are not discussing offer or a proposal or an agreement with one party just to waste their time. See, for example, I want to buy an insurance product. I'm approaching an insurance company. That meaning I am ready to purchase that if the terms and conditions are acceptable to me. So insurance company, that agent will tell me these are the products available according to my requirement. So I am also selecting one or two from that. Then I am shortlisting that. So I am entering into a legal relationship with the insurance company. You have to remember that social invitations cannot come to a legal relation. See, there is an important case, Balfour versus Balfour. See here, Balfour is a civil servant. He was working in Ceylon. Then they got and he was spending time with his wife, or he want to spend time with his wife, or they want to go on a vacation to UK. So here they booked the ticket, all the arrangements were made. But what happened? Mrs. Valmer, she was sick. So she was not able to accompany the husband. So husband promised that some maintenance money he will give to, so she can enjoy her life in Sri Lanka, whereas the husband will be away in UK. But what happened? The husband has not paid that money, whatever he has promised to the wife. The wife went to the court asking for that money, whatever he has offered. So, but the court verdict was that this is a agreement between husband and wife. You cannot challenge in the court of law. Sometimes husband may accept that, sometimes husband may reject that. So if you are getting it from the husband, you should be happy about that. But you cannot bring this matter to the court because it's a social invitation. It's a agreement between husband and wife. It can change, it can be satisfied. So it's left to the parties. So here also social invitations, going out for movie, going out for dinner, buying something for the children, everything will come in social invitation. It can be between parents and children, grandparents and grandchildren, husband and wife, between siblings. But if it's not fulfilled, we cannot take this matter to the court. Now, what is third point is the lawful consideration. So what is consideration? Consideration is an important thing in Contract Act. Consideration is something in return. I work for a university, I get my salary. That is my consideration. So, you are joining an university. They are paying the fees. That is the consideration for the university from the student. So, when you are doing something, always you get something in return. So, both the parties should get something in return. If a student is joining a university, he will get a good education. What the university will get in return, they will get the fees from the student. Both the parties are benefited. So here you have to remember that make both agreements enforceable by law. Consideration. If the consideration is not paid, if only part payment is made, you can challenge that in the court of law. So you have to remember another thing, consideration can be past, present or future consideration. Sometimes people may not be able to pay immediately. So they will enter into an agreement saying that whatever work you have done for me, I am going to compensate you. See, for example, I wrote a book before COVID. The royalty I am expecting, till now it is not paid. That meaning after 2 years they are going to pay my royalty. That is the past consideration. Work I have completed, my work I have completed 2 years back. Still I am waiting for the royalty. Present meaning, imagine I am writing a book. Immediately when I am handing over the manuscript, the publisher is giving me the royalty. So that is present, immediate. It can be future also. That I am entering into an agreement with the publisher for writing a book. Publisher is telling that end of the month or end of the year, I will pay you the consideration. It can be August 31st or March 31st based on the agreement we entered. So that is future consideration. One more thing you have to remember, consideration can be in cash or in kind or abstinence. Consideration in cash meaning it's in monetary terms, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakhs, whatever be that, consideration is mentioned in monetary terms and we are getting that. In kind meaning you are getting as a land or you are getting as a vehicle, you are getting as a perquisite, we call in income tax, in rent-free accommodation or anything, free lunch or anything like that. It can be in kind. Or abstinence. Abstinence meaning you will not do certain things. That is the consideration. See, Cement Dealers Association, they have a forum, they will discuss what is the price they are going to sell on retail basis. Or granite dealers, they have this agreement. So no, everybody will follow that. They will not go beyond that retail price, whatever it's agreed between the members. So that is abstinence. They will not do anything against the whatever the decisions of the association. That is abstinence. For that also they can ask for consideration among the group that they will decide on that basis. Now, fourth point is a lawful object. The object is unlawful when it is forbidden by law, or if permitted, it would defeat the provisions of any law. Say, for example, you know that the validity of a check is 3 months in our country. You cannot, for one person, you cannot make the condition that I will give you a check, but you can present it after 4 months. It will defeat the provisions of the Banking Regulation Act. The Reserve Bank will not accept that. One person cannot change the rules and regulations. So, for example, another example is giving a house on rent for terrorist activities or for prostitution or for storing drugs. All these are against the laws of our country. We cannot allow that. Now, written and registered. Agreement should be written and registered to make it valid. We know that we commit so many things orally, but there is no word of honor in the actual situation. Or in business, it's very difficult. Word of honor. Only few people will follow that rule, and it's not followed. So what we can make it to do that, written and registered, agreement written and registered, signed by both parties, then it will become valid. Now, certainty of meaning. Certainty of meaning, you have to remember that agreement should not contain vague terms. See, for example, if I am buying a car, what color, whether it's a new one or a second hand, all these terms and conditions should be mentioned in the agreement. Here, agreements, the meaning of which is not certain or capable of being certain, are void. If I'm just saying a car, it can be anything. So many varieties of cars are available in the market. It has to be clearly specified, whether it's new car, whether it's second hand, color, what all the conditions, what is the interior, you want any extra interiors or anything like that, you have to extra fittings, you have to mention that in the agreement. Or in a book publishing agreement, the subject has to be mentioned, the syllabus has to be mentioned, the date for sending the manuscript has to be mentioned, everything should be there. Then it will be clear. Now, possibility of performance. This is another important thing. Whatever you are committing, you should be able to complete that. As per Section 56 of the Indian Contract Act 1872, an agreement to do an impossible act in itself is void. If I am promising somebody, I will take you to the moon, I will take you to the sun, I will take you to Iceland, I will take you to Antarctica. These are impossible things. We cannot enter into contracts on the basis of impossible things. Now, 8th point is not expressly declared void. You have to remember sections 24 to 30 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 lists certain types of agreements which are expressly declared void. That is, agreement in restraint of marriage or trade. Those who are, when you are becoming a major, you can, if you want to get married, you can marry against the wish of the parents or against the even if the parents are not agreeing for that. If you want to marry a person from other religion, other faith, anything, it will be allowed. Nobody can stop you. Then trade. If you want to do some legal business which is acceptable in our country, you have every right to do that. Nobody can stop you. If anybody will stop you to do a legitimate business in India, that is, contract is void. They can challenge that in the court of law. Now, the 9th is capacity of parties. As per Section 11 of the Indian Contract Act 1872, for being competent to contract, parties must be of the age of majority, sound mind, and must not be disqualified from contracting by any law. Now, minors, we know that minors cannot enter into contracts. Contracts entered into by minor is void. Even if a minor is coming into the benefits of partnership, he will be joining with his guardian or his parents. So, whenever a minor is entering into a contract, always on behalf of the parents, along with the parents or guardian, he will be entering. Guardian is when the parents are not alive, the court has appointed a guardian to look after him till he will become a major. Similarly, see, any contract, parties must be in sound mind. They are not taking any psychiatric treatment. They are not suffering from mental deficiency or disqualified from contracting by any law. If a person has filed for Insolvency Act, he is not able to pay his liabilities. That meaning he cannot enter into a contract. He will be denied all the rights a citizen of the country is getting as a benefit from the government. He will not be allowed to enter into contract. Now, the last point is free consent. Free consent meaning consent may be defective either on account of a mistake in the consent of the parties or on account of consent of one of them not being free. See, you can obtain consent sometimes by using force, sometimes by threatening them, sometimes by attacking them. All these are not allowed in the as per the Indian laws and rules and regulations, especially when it will come to a contract. See, for example, as a minor, you're threatening your parents. You give me your my share of property, otherwise I leave the house and go. That meaning continuous threat. They may be forced to sign that agreement, but they can always challenge in the court saying that our consent was not free. He threatened us, our son or daughter threatened us. That is why we forced to sign that agreement at that time. So here it is very important. The consent of the parties should be obtained. It should be free. Nobody is forcing. Both are happily entering into contract. So that is the free consent. So this is what I want to explain in this module. So happy learning. Thank you.